So let's get right to it. Could one of the world's biggest religions actually be a major reason for our modern ecological crisis? It's a huge question, a really provocative one. And trust me, the answer is way more surprising than you'd expect.
All right, so let's just jump right in. This idea, it's not new. I mean, for decades now, you've had thinkers, environmentalists, you name it, pointing the finger. They've been saying, hey, look right here at this specific interpretation in the Judeo-Christian tradition. That's where a lot of our environmental problems really started.
And really, the entire argument boils down to a single, incredibly powerful word: dominance. For some, this wasn't just a word. No, it was basically a blank check from the divine, right? A license to just go wild, to treat nature less like a living garden and more like a resource to be stripped bare.
But is that it? Is that the whole story? Was dominion really just a command to dominate, to be a tyrant over the earth? Or could it mean something completely different? You see, the real story, the one we're going to unpack, starts right here with this one word.
And this is where it gets really interesting, because you can see the two sides of the coin right here. On one hand, you've got dominion as straight-up tyranny, the idea that humans are at the top of the pyramid and everything else is just there for us to use, the root of the crisis, right? But then, look at the other side, a totally different interpretation. Dominion as stewardship. It's a call to be a gardener, to take care of the world, to be, and I love this phrase from the source, God's fellow workers.
So to really get a grip on this stewardship idea, we have to look at something that completely flips the script on how we see our relationship with the planet. And believe it or not, it all comes from one single ancient Greek word.
And that word is oikos. Super simple. It just means house, or household, or family. It sounds almost too basic, right? But stick with me, because this simple idea of a shared home, it is the absolute key to unlocking this whole thing. Now, here's what's so cool. This one little word, oikos, is the root of three huge ideas we still use today. First, you get ecology, that's the study of our shared house. Then economy, the management or the rules of our house. But then there's this third one, ecumenism. And that's all about unity among everyone living in the house. All of a sudden, these things we think of as totally separate, science, money, religion, they're all part of the same family tree. They all come back to house. Okay, so let's follow that thought. If we're all living in the same house, the same oikos, well, doesn't it make sense that we'd need some shared house rules? A way to take care of the place together? And that question right there takes us straight to the heart of the main idea in our source material. To build this big idea, we're going to need a couple of German words. So first up is Umwelt. Pretty straightforward, it just means environment. The world around us, nature itself. Okay, so that's part one. Part two is this word, wealthos, and this is a really cool concept. It means a global ethic, a set of moral values that pretty much all of humanity could agree on, no matter where you come from. So what happens when you smash those two words together? You get this, Umweltethos. And this is a really profound idea. It's a proposal for a global ethic that isn't just about how we humans get along with each other. No, it's bigger. It's an ethic that's fundamentally baked into our relationship with our environment, with our shared oikos. But okay, where do you get the rules for something that big? I mean, a global ethic for the planet? You can't just make them up, right? The source material argues that an ethic like this has to come from somewhere much, much deeper. It has to be based on a principle of listening. And here's the idea. This ethos, this ethic, has to start with a logos. And logos here means something like an underlying reason or logic. So the idea is that nature isn't just a thing. It's not just a silent resource waiting for us. It has its own logic, its own grammar, its own voice, a voice that we're supposed to tune into and actually understand. So think about what that means. If nature has a logos, then from this theological viewpoint, the universe isn't just some chaotic, random accident. It's a cosmos, an ordered, meaningful place that came from reason and even love. And that implies that there's a deep logic to how things work, a pattern that we're supposed to learn about and, respect. Okay, that's a pretty mind-bending idea, right? A universe with its own voice. So, is anyone actually doing this? How is this idea of listening to creation actually showing up in the world today? Well, let's take a look at how different Christian traditions are tackling this right now. And what we find is really cool. We see three different paths, but they all seem to be heading in a very similar direction. You've got the Orthodox Church with its focus on contemplation. You've got Protestant churches really doubling down on that idea of stewardship. And then you have the Catholic Church, which has introduced this idea of integral ecology.
Let's start with the Orthodox approach. It's been championed by a man they call the Green Patriarch, Bartholomew. And his main point is powerful. He argues that we've been thinking about it all wrong. There isn't this huge gap between us and nature. There's more continuity than discontinuity. We're not just in the world, we are deeply, fundamentally of the world.
Then you have the Protestant world. A lot of thinkers there are pushing this idea of servanthood stewardship, and it's a total reframing of our role. The idea is, we're not the masters, we're not the bosses, we're meant to be humble servants, responsible for taking care of a creation that isn't just useful, but actually has sacred value. And finally, the Catholic tradition, with Pope Francis's concept of integral ecology. And this is a game changer because he connects the dots in a new way. He says you absolutely cannot separate your concern for nature from your concern for the poor and for social justice. He says the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor, they are the exact same cry. So, wow, we've gone through ancient Greek, modern German, deep theology, which brings us all the way back to the beginning. Where does all this leave us with that original really sharp accusation we started with?
All right, let's do a quick recap of the journey. We kicked things off with that big accusation about dominion. Then we found that amazing root word, oikos, our shared house. That led us to the idea of an Umwelt ethos, a global ethic for the planet. And we just saw how different traditions are actually bringing that idea to life today, each in their own way. So here's the bottom line. That dominion as tyranny idea, it has definitely caused real-world damage, no doubt about it. But, and this is the crucial part, it's not the whole story. Not by a long shot. There's this other, much richer tradition of stewardship, of care, of seeing ourselves as kin to creation that's been there all along.
And that's what I want to leave you with. If we really take this idea of the earth as our oikos seriously, our shared house, our family home, then what does that make us? What's our role in this family? Are we the owners who get to make all the rules? Are we just tenants, here for a little while? Or are we something more like siblings to the rest of creation, with a deep personal responsibility to care for our family?